This weekend, we have an exciting new moon in Virgo. New moons are a great time to slow down a little and go within, get a little rest maybe. And that's true for this moon as well. But this Virgo new moon is squaring Uranus newly in Gemini. And this signifies that this weekend might not exactly go as planned. I'm excited to discuss this with you and more about the astrology of this weekend of August 22nd through 24th, 2025. Let's go ahead and start with our new moon and get that on the chart. I'm going to circle our new moon here. When the sun and the moon come together, we have a new moon. And you'll notice that the south node is here in this part of the sky as well. And that is a big part of what's making this new moon a little extra special. We're actually going to have another new moon in a month in Virgo, and that one will be an eclipse. So this is actually the beginning of eclipse season. Eclipse season begins 2 weeks before an eclipse. Eclipses always come in series. So this time we have two eclipses in a series in September. We have a Pisces lunar eclipse, and then we have a Virgo solar eclipse. So that will begin in 2 weeks. The lunation that starts before that opens up that eclipse window. So there are so many unusual aspects of this new moon, things that make it stand out and feel like it might be a little bit surprising, a few different things that indicate that. So I do think that it's always important to take it just one thing at a time and sort of break it down. So let's do that. Here you can see I highlighted the new moon on the chart. My hope is always that if you're studying astrology and you find that clarification of having the visuals helpful, that it's helpful for you. And if you just want to listen to the astrology, my hope is that these reports always work for you as well, wherever you are in your enjoyment of astrology. That's always my intention, for it to work for everybody. So I love, first of all, what's happening right now in general with the pattern of what's going on in the sky, that when we move into a sign, we quickly have the new moon. So when the sun moves into Virgo, as it just did, we're having the new moon right away. And I feel like that really allows us to feel the sign. Because of course, when the sun moves into a sign, we do enter into that time period. Sun in Virgo is a distinct thing. But once you've had the new moon, it kind of takes it to another level, and you kind of feel this, the energy of the sign that much more. And so that is extra true this year. So because the new moons just happen to be falling in the early part of the sign. So here we are, early Virgo sun time, and we're having a new moon in Virgo right at the same time. So we have a few different things that make me feel like this isn't just your average new moon in Virgo. We have the fact that it's in the very, very early degree of the sign at the 0 degree point, which is quite a potent degree all around the chart right now. We have so much happening at early degrees. We have the fact that we're going to have two this year. Sometimes we have 2 full moons in a sign, like an astrological blue moon, and sometimes we have 2 new moons in a sign. And that's what's happening here with Virgo. Just so happens to be that that next new moon is going to be an eclipse. And it just so happens that this new moon is squaring Uranus, which adds a lot of surprise to a sign that really traditionally kind of likes to do things a certain kind of way. With Uranus, the surprises could feel surprising, right? It's something that is surprising, that's sudden, that's different than what you expected. That even now, if you're like, well, I kind of think that what I have going on right now is this one issue, The rule with Uranus, the rule of thumb with Uranus is it ends up being about something else when you look back. One of my favorite practices actually is to write down, keep a little bit of a journal around eclipses. If you pay attention to the axis that it's happening on, and you make some notes over the course of the 18 months or often a little bit longer that the nodes are working through and we're having eclipses in those signs, you get such a sense of what is falling for you, what's occurring for you with those with this particular series. So, you know, there are different things that I think are important to pay attention to. And I think let's just start with the new moon. Let's just talk about the new moon. A new moon in Virgo likes to get stuff done. You may feel this weekend that you have a lot you want to do, a lot you want to get done. You want to get things in order. You want to rearrange a schedule. You want to fix something. You want to clean something. And it's a great time to do that. There could be a focus on scheduling and routines and just your way of organizing things. And this is a very good weekend to do all that. Might not go exactly as planned. We'll get to that in a second. This is also a time for sort of renewing the organization and the scheduling. And that could come about because you have some new ideas and you decide to make that change, or it could be that new tasks or responsibilities have surfaced lately, and now you're having to make that adjustment, that shift in the way you move through your daily habits, your daily routines, in order to accommodate the change that has surfaced. There is sort of a fixing energy to a new moon in Virgo. There's an attention to detail. There can be just a sensitivity to the small things. However, with the South Node here, wherever we have the South Node, it's easier to let go of the more negative sides of that zodiac signature. So what we're really called to do this eclipse season, which we are entering into with this new moon occurs overnight, Friday night into Saturday, by the way. It's at about 2 in the morning on the East Coast and about 11 o'clock at night, Friday night on the West Coast, for talking about what's going on here, but all different, adjust for wherever you're listening to this report. So what was I saying? I interrupted myself. My apologies. It's sometimes a little challenging doing these live, but I like doing them live. I also just want to say hello, say that if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments and, put them in the chat if you're watching this live, and I will answer you at the end of the report. And if you're watching this later, feel free to add any questions then, and I'll answer you in the next report when I do the next one on Monday. I remember what I was saying. The idea that we release the negative sides of the signature with the South Node in Virgo. So letting go of needing to be too scheduled, needing to be too attentive to details. This North Node in Pisces is pulling us in a different direction, pulling us more to think big picture, spiritual. And the South Node in Virgo is sort of pulling us to release criticism a little bit of self, of others, of the need to do things perfectly. And so this is a very interesting thing, especially given the square to Uranus. Let's add that in now. I think it's really important and we should just go ahead and get to it. So here's Uranus up here, newly in Gemini, forming this square. We'll talk about this, we'll talk about this triangle in a little bit. I'm going to mark it so I don't forget since I marked it by accident. Okay, so Uranus is newly in Gemini, and this has been sort of accelerating the pace of the new stuff that's coming in. Connected to this outer triangle, for example, I feel like the Pluto in Aquarius signature has been a little extra since Uranus moved in to Gemini. Wow, Uranus in Gemini has been quickening the pace of the mind. New ideas coming in, new opportunities, new conversations. Um, I think that Uranus in Gemini is going to shake up the way we communicate, the way we learn, the way it could change things in education. There's a lot that's been happening, and I think our mental processes have been a little bit on fire, and things have just been moving and changing quickly since Uranus moved into Gemini, as expected. Uranus had been in Taurus since 2018, and Taurus doesn't really love change. Gemini loves change, and Uranus is all about change. So change on top of change is it helps it to move a little bit more quickly than usual. So Uranus can also be sort of a disruptive energy. Like I said, sometimes Uranus comes in and changes something that we wouldn't have expected. I think one saying that makes a lot of sense that you hear about Uranus a lot, it's not uniquely my own for sure. I'm not sure. I think a few different astrologers say this, that Uranus does what we couldn't do for ourselves, helps us to do something that we couldn't do for ourselves. So it's almost like you might not even realize this change needs to come in, this new idea. And I don't want to make it seem like this is negative or like it's huge. I don't think it's either of these things. I think we're moving and growing through time, and that things are always changing, things are always shifting, and this might be a moment where there's a little bit more of that than usual, or some things move in a certain way that maybe we weren't quite expecting. But more and more, we have all the tools that we need to navigate this stuff. We do have the South Node in Virgo. We have let go of like the illusion of control. We understand we can't we can't do that. We can't hold on to everything. We can't micromanage every single detail. So a square to Uranus, as much as there's all this, let's start the new schedule. Let's get everything in order. Let's begin the new routine. Energy, the square to Uranus suggests that plans could be disrupted, things could get rearranged suddenly. That could happen because of a conversation that you have or news that you receive. It could happen through an external event. But I think with a new moon, it's even more likely that it is just something that sort of comes from the inside, that it's something that you're realizing based on everything that's going on around you. It might not fully be something that happens in the world, but more an idea that sort of breaks you free from your routines in one way or another. Something that changes, that shakes up this tendency to perfect. It's like we realize it's not quite possible. We have to do things differently. We have to do things differently now. And this does open us up into eclipse season, where we're going to have more exciting lunations ahead. So we have this Virgo new moon. In 2 weeks, we have the Pisces lunar eclipse. In another 2 weeks, we have a solar eclipse in Virgo. So I think it might not be, I'm sorry that it's so anticlimactic in this way, but it might not really be until we're on the other side of that eclipse season, which is another 2 weeks down the road, really getting into early October, that this story fully comes together. But it kind of begins this weekend. You might see something this weekend or in the week or two that follows, because that's still in this 2-week opening eclipse energy. Might suggest something about what this eclipse is going to work with for you. This is our only eclipse season that's happening entirely along the Pisces Virgo axis. There is something about letting go of being able to plan and control everything, and I think the more that we can do that, the easier it will be. And maybe the more it won't happen to us, but it'll happen from the inside. If you're working on something right now, how can you still be working on it, still be trying to make progress without needing to control every detail, with maybe relaxing into the fact that it's an unknown process a little bit. You know, we also have this outer planet triangle here that's being pinged by this lunation because it's going up to this square with Uranus, and Uranus is trining Pluto. That will be exact in just a couple weeks. Look, they're both at 1 degree. This is a very, very tight trine. And then they're working with Neptune newly in Aries as well. This outer planet triangle has been with us all summer, starting to sort of open us up into this new era, into this new story. Something has maybe begun that is really brand new, that's really different, maybe more than one thing, because we're connecting to a few different parts of the chart. You probably don't have it all figured out just yet. It's not all clear. The details aren't all clear. And right now, we have 2 of these planets retrograde. Uranus will be going retrograde soon. But I just think that that's sort of significant as well. And Saturn as well is basically on September 1st, Saturn will move into Pisces. So Saturn's about to leave this house and sign. There's something going on where we're reflecting. We've begun this new era, but we're now also here in late August in a period of reflecting about it. Okay, so we have this new thing that's begun. How are we going to put it all together? What's the schedule going to look like? How are we going to make it all work? What's the plan? Where do we need to do better? Where do other people need to do better? And it's like, that's kind of the tendency. That's kind of the old way of doing things. And there's also a sense or something comes in that says to us, you can't quite do it that way. You have to feel your way forward with it a little bit. Plan, but write your plans in pencil, you know, because everything is so different now that you can't really know exactly how it's all going to come together. So I also think it's really interesting the way that Saturn, I don't know if this is off topic, maybe it is a little bit, but we have this outer planet triangle and Saturn's been hanging out with it. It doesn't need to. Neptune, Pluto, and Uranus are doing their thing. And once Saturn moves into Pisces, that outer planet triangle will still be there. But Saturn's been there this whole time. And on September 1st, Saturn moves into Pisces. And I just think that's interesting how that's the planet that's pulling this outer triangle apart. It's not pulling it apart, it's like Saturn's going to be sort of beckoning Neptune back over into Pisces. Pluto isn't shifting. Pluto's staying put in Aquarius, but Uranus will go retrograde and will go back into Taurus for a little while, breaking up that triangle. But I just think it's interesting that Saturn's doing it. Once again, saying we need structural change. We need to rethink a few things now that we have this information. I really think there's quite a lot of this in late August, September, early October. Now that we have this new information and more information continuing to come in, probably more surprises, how can we make changes that work? How can we adjust to make things work? But how can we do that differently than we've done it before? If you'd like to see where this falls in your chart, check out my August horoscopes. And that will talk about this new moon as well and put it through the houses and signs, best viewed by your rising sign. And just thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful weekend.